So tonight we are going to talk about weaning, and we're going to talk about breast milk allergies, and we're going to talk about, how do you say it, Catherine? Do you just say FPIES, or do you say, like, what do you say?
Considering how rare it is, I don't say it very often.
Okay.
I just say food protein induced enterocolitis syndrome.
You just
So-
say it all out,
So
right?
I just say the whole thing. And if you're ready to jump in?
Let's just jump in, because I will say I have heard that. I've heard people talking about breast milk allergies before, but I've heard that one other time before someone brought it up to me recently. So I didn't even know how to say the whole thing out there. And
I think most people that are affected by it say FPIES. I'm not 100% positive, but considering that it only affects 0.5% of children, not infants only, but children, and less than 0.2% of adults, it's really uncommon. And I think that what I'd like to talk about is the differences between sensitivities with to something in breast milk, aka breast milk allergies, and food protein induced enterocolitis. So to start with, breast milk allergies, there's really no such thing. A baby can have sensitivities to proteins in mom's milk. These can be mild symptoms. They may not seem mild, but they cause gas, bloating, funky stools. Like that way of saying that. It could trigger mild constipation. Breastfed babies just generally don't get constipated. Or it could, on the reverse side of that, it could trigger frothy, funky, slimy kind of poops. But that happens pretty quickly. Baby, you can get the gas out. Baby can be consoled. With food protein induced enterocolitis, that's a whole different ballgame, and it affects the GI tract. But it generally doesn't. It does not occur. The effects don't occur immediately following eating. Instead, it can take several hours before the symptoms begin, and the most common trigger for FPIES in breastfed infants is cow's milk consumption by mom. But it can be cow's milk, soy, rice, oats, any food, but those are the most common ones.
So I just want to back up and be clear for just a second. So what you said in all of that, and I just want to make sure that I understand too, that to say that baby has breast milk allergy, it doesn't exist. It is an allergy to something that the mom is taking in.
It wouldn't even necessarily be a true allergy.
Okay.
It could be just a GI upset.
Okay.
But baby still gains and progresses, developmentally and everything. With FPIES, the symptoms can include severe vomiting, diarrhea, dehydration, failure to thrive. Babies that have food protein induced enterocolitis don't gain weight. I mean, they scream. They really are unhappy babies. Whereas babies that have some kind of sensitivity to something that mom's consuming, they may have GI upset, but they're consolable, and you can you can remove the offending food, and generally they'll clear up pretty quickly. Whereas what enterocolitis, just it takes time and healing. I'm going to share a bunch of links after we close this today.
Okay.
I did a lot. I did a lot of reading today, and there's actually several websites that I recommend you looking at for information regarding it. One of them is, bear with me, I've got so many windows open here. I'm going,
That's okay.
oh, please tell me I didn't just close one of them. So where are you? There we go. The FPIES Foundation.org
Okay.
has some really inspiring family stories about families that have gone through this. One that I read today, the poor little guy, he could eat 3 foods.
Oh, bless his heart.
That's really, I mean, that's not the same as, oops, I drank a glass of milk, my baby's going to be miserable for 2 days. You know, there's a big difference. Now, let me back up about the breast milk allergy thing. There are a couple of genetic disorders that preclude breastfeeding. There's still a lot of gray area with this. Galactosemia is one of them. Galactosemia is a genetic disorder where there's an inability to process galactose, and galactose is abundant in human milk. It's abundant in cow's milk, and what happens is it builds up, and it causes life-threatening issues. And so that would be it's not an allergy. Like I said, there really isn't a breast milk allergy per se, but there are a couple genetic disorders that make it difficult for breastfeeding. They're talking about galactosemia, though. There is a milder form called Duarte galactosemia, which the baby can process some amounts, but not exclusively breastfed or exclusively fed a cow's milk formula. Generally, galactosemia sufferers, however you want to put that, they do soy formula, which in and of itself is a big experiment. Soy formula is not on an approved list. It's on the generally recognized as safe list, which means that it's subject to, reevaluation periodically. It's a big, giant experiment that the United States and other countries, but predominantly the United States, has been conducting on infants, our most vulnerable population. So, talk about that. I wanted to talk about that a little bit because I wanted to talk about the galactosemia and breast milk allergies. A lot of my opinions, because I really can't give you a lot of research to support this, but in my 25 years of experience, generally when babies have sensitivities to things that mom's eating, as particularly dairy, it's because mom's gut health is poor. And when mom starts healing her gut, then those big proteins don't get through, and that makes a huge difference. I think that probably plays a part in the food protein induced enterocolitis as well. We've altered our food supply so much and depleted the soil that our food is grown in, and sprayed it with toxic chemicals to kill insects and parasites and everything. And we've been ingesting that and living in environments with all these awful chemicals. I mean, everything is a chemical. Don't get me wrong. The world, you know, everything is elemental. Everything is made up of elements, but it, you know, we've altered our genetics.
Yeah.
For some of with much of these things, and that makes and that just makes it our lives more complicated.
So here's my question, because in circles, you know, talking to lots of moms in lots of places, one of the things that I have heard is, well, I couldn't breastfeed because my baby had a breast milk allergy. Like, and you know, a lot, like I will say a lot of women that I've encountered, surprising to me, have said that. Who tells them that? Who diagnoses them with that? So if we're going to say that this really doesn't exist, right? Like, where are they getting this diagnosis or this idea from? Is it Google research, or is it OBs, or what?
Medical professionals that don't know the biology of how the breast works and how human milk is processed in the gut. You know, other types of medical professionals have to know a whole lot about a whole lot of different things. IBCLCs have to know a whole lot about one subject. And yeah, it's what I read constantly.
Right. Well, that's, you know, I was just talking to Dr. Angela today. We're going to be doing an interview with her tomorrow. And like, I was telling her, like, she's the pelvic floor therapist. And I said, you know, I tell people all the time, like, your OBs are not lactation consultants. Your midwives are not lactation consultants, unless they are. Some might be, you know, they're not pelvic floor therapists either. They're not, you know, they're not your basketball coach either. Like,
absolutely.
They know this.
Well, I think that so many, and we really are veering off a lot here, but I think so many, we've specialized so much that we've disconnected. It's not working in a team.
Yeah.
It's not working in concert with everyone. You know, what I do in a perfect world, I would have easy access to speak to your pediatrician, to your OB, to your gastroenterologist if you need it, your pelvic floor specialist, your speech language therapist, or feeding specialist. You know, we would be working together, and it wouldn't be, you know, dismissive of anybody. I mean, I don't dismiss a pediatrician that tells a mom that her baby is allergic to her breast milk. I'd rather talk to them and educate them about it, and, you know, and ask them why they think that. Because one thing that I have found in all these years is that everyone thinks that, especially if it's a female that has breastfed a baby, they think that they know how to help you. And if I had to use only the information that I learned breastfeeding my one child and being unsuccessful with my other child, I'd be hard pressed to help most of the people I see. You know, and you know, they wouldn't do that with any other thing. You know, they wouldn't, you know, oh, I broke my arm once, I'll set it for you. You don't you know, that's kind of how IBCLCs are treated. You know, oh, it's icing on the cake. It's not really necessary, but it really is. And we're seeing more and more babies with things like sensitivities and, you know, enterocolitis. And if they can get their mother's milk and mom can alter her diet so that baby can have human milk, then they're going to have the best chance at you know, the best life outcome, you know, long-term health outcomes.
Yeah. Yeah. And that makes complete sense. That makes complete sense. So I've not seen any questions or anything come in yet tonight. But the other thing that we were going to touch on real quick was weaning. So what did you want to say? Because I know we talked about it a little bit last week. But what did you want to add to that conversation?
I want to repeat a lot. Every weaning is unique. Every mom weans for their own constellation of reasons, and that makes it unique. And that for me, the big picture is being respectful of the next generation's social emotional health. Yeah. And so, I'm 100% pro baby-led weaning. And I mean that in the sense of weaning, not weaning to solids. I'm talking about that.
Right.
And well, I don't know. I can tie some theories in that we don't have research to support. Here's one that I love, that I like to ruminate on. So many women talk about the appearance of their breasts after they wean, and looking like deflated balloons. That kind of, they talk about it, and they talk about body image issues. And one thing that I've found in being a part of La Leche League, and La Leche League, not, and for what it's worth, for everybody out there listening, La Leche League does not recommend that you wean at 6 or whatever. What works for you and your baby is what works. But that being said, folks that attend La Leche League regularly tend to wean later than folks that don't attend. And I think that a lot of that is culture, but also education, because they get to hear about all of the cool things that normal term breastfeeding facilitate. Like, did you know that a baby that's breastfed for more than, I think it's 33 months, is 44% less likely to need orthodontia?
Oh.
I mean, that's a pretty wild statistic there. That when children are breastfed full term, and that's whenever they want to wean, they have normal maxillofacial development. Babies that are weaned at 6 months or a year, and then perhaps go on to a sippy cup for another 2 or 3 years, don't have normal, optimal facial development. So things like that. But back to the body image thing. So moms that wean naturally, not okay, it's time to cut you off, and baby's been nursing 10 times a day at that point, but normal term weaning, because their body has been slowly making less and less milk, and it's a long process, they tend not to have that radical deflated balloon look. And I wouldn't know that except for what I do, and because of my long-term association with La Leche League and moms that wean at 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. So
that's very interesting.
Yeah, I'm a wealth of really weird knowledge. But I just said that one's one that has always fascinated me. The orthodontia one has been, I learned that way before I learned about airway development and breastfeeding. You know, babies that breastfeed long term have more normal airway development rather than underdeveloped. And you know, you and I have talked about this because of tongue tie stuff. You know, if you can't swallow appropriately, if you don't have full mobility for your tongue and for all your facial muscles, your airway doesn't develop appropriately, which can have long-term health consequences. And all of, you know, I've been learning this for the last 25 years. All these things that, you know, I'm making connections.
Awesome. That's amazing. That, I mean, there's so much, you know, and I want to say too, like, it's so important, and we've said this before, to prepare for breastfeeding if that's what you're going to do before you get postpartum and you're trying to troubleshoot the whole breastfeeding thing. So it matters so much that you're just aware of things and that you prepare. And, you know, I had issues breastfeeding my OB and pediatrician wanted to give me advice, but in all honesty, and this is just me being me, all I had was Kelly, Mom. That's all I had to go and read. And I'm just enough to buck the system. Like, I have just enough attitude to be like, no, I will do this, you know, and I pushed through. Had I had you prior to that, it would have been a different experience, you know. But so moms who are watching this, like, it matters that you prepare and that you understand, you know, your pediatrician is not a lactation consultant. Your OB is not a lactation consultant, or your midwife, or your, you know, labor nurse. Some of them might be, but for the majority, they're not going to be a lactation consultant to walk you through everything that you're going to need to troubleshoot on your process. And don't wait until you're postpartum and your hormones are rebalancing.
Exactly.
You're crazy to try to figure out, you know, what to do in those moments. But anyway,
I always like to say, you don't go to your plumber for an electrical problem.
No, you know? That could be very bad.
Exactly. And I want everyone to know, I was not successful breastfeeding my first. I don't share these things to make anyone feel bad about their choices. I share this information so that everyone can make informed choices. And I live the mantra, when we know better, we do better. You know, I make mistakes all the time, but I try really hard not to make them twice.
Right. Oh, I'm having that conversation with my oldest now. Woo-wee. That's a whole nother subject. Anyway. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. We will, again, share your questions with us, please. Like, we want to answer what you want to know. So what we touched on tonight is just stuff that came in randomly in conversations or messages to me. So, you know, put in the group or message me, you know, or message Catherine, whatever, that's fine too. Like, we just want to know what you all want to know and what questions you want answered, because we want to help you prepare, whether you're already in the throes of motherhood and breastfeeding, or whether you're a first-time mom and you plan to breastfeed, prepare for it now. Anyway, love you guys. Hope you have a wonderful evening. And
there's a La Leche League meeting at 9 p.m. on Thursday night.
Okay.
Just
La Leche League at 9 p.m. on Thursday night. Is that virtual?
Yes. Okay. Yes, definitely.
Just making sure. So y'all, like,
we'll share the link.
Yeah. All right. Y'all have a great night, and we will talk to you later. Bye.